So you guys wanted to know more about the enemies in my Backrooms-inspired RPG, The Backworld. Since it's supposed to be more intimidating and scary compared to traditional JRPGs, the enemies do extra things in the world rather than just running into you to start combat. For example, there's an enemy called the Sprinter. If it detects you, it'll run really slowly at first, but if you stay in its range, eventually it'll start sprinting and you won't be able to escape it, even if you sprint yourself. If it ever detects you, you want to get out of its range really quickly, or you're kind of done and you're going to have to fight it in combat. And then in combat, it has the passive called Chaser, which basically makes it increase its speed every single turn. So at the start of combat, it'll be really slow and you can act before it, but by the end of combat, it'll be acting before your party members. And when it gets low, it'll have stronger abilities. At the end of the fight, it's going to be using stronger abilities and it's going to be faster. You want to really burst it out very quickly before it can achieve that really strong state. Another enemy is called a Crawler. The special thing about this enemy is that as it's walking around, it'll set down traps. These traps will explode if you run into them, dealing damage to your entire party. It'll also stun you and make you fall down briefly, so if an enemy is chasing you already, likely they're going to catch you and then you'll be forced to fight them in combat. Another special thing about the Crawlers is some of them ignore you and some of them will chase you. So sometimes you'll have to take the risk of assuming that the Crawler is not going to chase you if you're trying to avoid something else, but sometimes they will chase you and you'll be screwed. In combat, the Crawler uses lots of status effects that last a long time, and on top of that, it has a passive called Abuser, which makes it gain attack for all this negative status effects it's inflicted. So if it looks like the fight is going to be extended, you'll want to make sure to cleanse those status effects using an antidote or something like that to make sure that the Crawler's not getting too strong. The last enemy is called a Skinstealer. When you encounter a Skinstealer normally, they'll just chase you down and enter combat like a regular enemy. But the thing is that Skinstealers have the ability to eat their prey and then become something that looks similar to their prey. So if they eat a human, they can turn into something that looks like a human. So while you're exploring in the back world, when you're interacting with NPCs, if one of them looks kind of weird or slightly off, then that means they might be a Skinstealer. So every once in a while, when you encounter an NPC and you try to leave, they'll be a Skinstealer that appears and then chases you down and forces you to fight it. In combat, since they're pretty adaptive and they can adapt to what their prey looks like after they've eaten them, they have the passive called Adaptive, which makes it so after that they've been hit, they gain defense for the rest of the round. Wishlist the Backworld on Steam, and even if you want to play it on consoles, it is going to be ported eventually. So subscribe to be around so you know when it gets ported or when it's released on Steam.